don't want like what I'm doing. That's an example of that. So a question to ask yourself is, why do you work? So, our current situation withstanding, not, why do you work? Do you work for just a paycheck, or do you have a purpose behind what you do? Really, at any point in time, are you doing what you're doing with a purpose, or are you doing it mindlessly, whether it's about money or for whatever other reason, just out of habit? When we're engaged with life in a very conscious manner, we're more purpose driven in our activity, as opposed to just sleepwalking through life, as it's been said. When we take the gift of our talents and time to our workplace with an attitude of giving the best we are and have, we actually enter into the divine flow of life. The receiving is automatic. So again, this is talking about work, but remember, as I mentioned on Monday, what this book is really all about is consciousness, attitudes, beliefs, where you place your faith, and how you generally feel about life. That will be the tendency of the way your life demonstrates itself. So take the word work out of the place. When we take the gift of our talents and time to our life with an attitude of giving the best we are and have, we actually enter the divine flow of life. The receiving is automatic. So a distinction would be, do I experience life as a victim filled with a bunch of have-tos, or am I on fire with purpose and putting myself in places in life that I love, with people I love, doing work that I love, et cetera, activities that I love? When we see our jobs or our lives as a place to create and express, we do more than make a living. We live our making. When we see our jobs as a place to create and express, we do more than make a living. We live our making. That is the reason we were created in the first place. Our physical body, our hands, our brain, our heart, our mouth literally become instruments for contribution, become instruments for sharing our gifts, become instrument for making our local environment and our global environment a better place by using your body, your mind as a tool. Our strongest motivation for working when approaching life with a prosperity consciousness, or again, working / expressing yourself in the ways that you do, should not be to get anything, but to be that open, giving instrument through which our divine nature is being expressed. If we truly love that which we call our work, the money will follow. That's the law. Again, it comes back to consciousness. Are you expressing yourself from a standpoint of love and from generosity and from contribution and from what Eric Butterworth says, and we're going to explore this more on Friday, the desire to become an incurably happy giver, an incurably happy giver. And it is in the giving that we receive. Have you noticed, when you really think of a time right now when you've given of yourself selflessly, you weren't expecting a return? Anytime. It could be with a parent or a child, a best friend, a loved one, or someone you didn't even know. But just consider one time when you gave of yourself simply because you had something to give, with expecting nothing in return. How did that feel? What was your experience of that? I beg to say it probably felt quite fulfilling. There was probably a tremendous amount of joy there. And that is the receiving. The same time that we're giving, there's a receiving that happens simultaneously. The law of attraction can only give us more of whatever we hold to be our truth in consciousness. So again, this isn't magic, and it's not a secret, which was brilliant marketing, by the way, but this has been around for a long time, this idea of the law of consciousness. That which we consider, that's how we perceive ourselves in life, is how we experience life. Our consciousness is the collection of our beliefs and attitudes, feelings, the way that we touch life, the way that we meet it, and that becomes what we experience, that which we quote unquote attract to us. But be aware that it's not coming from any source someplace. That the word attraction can even mean, it, it can be a little sticky in there, that we're attracting something from somewhere else. That's the great illusion. The great truth is that we're activating it inside of ourselves. And it goes back to the idea that the only relationship we ever have is the one with ourselves. And to the extent that we're tending our own garden and not trying to control life or tend somebody else's garden, how often have we done that? Thank you very much. Yes. But we're tending to our own garden. We weed. We only plant that which we think is beautiful, that which we see as beautiful. And we weed out the things that would strangle those beautiful seeds that we're planting so that they can grow and flourish. So we want to tend to our own garden. Up your consciousness. Always up your consciousness. Always go into that heavenly realm and speak your word from there. Know your word from there. Tell your truth from there. Attract from there. So, what is your attitude about your work? What is your attitude about your life right now? What's your attitude about it? And do you bring an attitude to work / life, which goes beyond just doing a job? And there are some days where it feels like just getting up out of bed feels like a job. Feels like it's difficult. It's challenging. It may be even more challenging right now, folks. But what attitude are you bringing to it? That's the thing. It's your choice to make. And at the end of the day, no matter what circumstances are happening in your local environment, in your home, no matter what's happening there, you get to choose your relationship with it. Now, that's a great responsibility. And it means that we're no longer victims. It means that we no longer can allow life someplace else to dictate who we are. We don't get to be a victim. We don't get to be blame makers and blame machines. We get to choose and take responsibility for our own life and our own awareness. And in that, look at it right now. Wouldn't you rather choose to be able to move about in the way that you really want to? I mean, I miss the golf course. That's the thing I miss the most. It's challenging to not be able to go hit some balls, go be in one of my favorite places on the planet, the golf course, where I commune with God, and it's heaven for me. Wouldn't I rather be able to choose to be able to go play golf than have that choice taken from me? Absolutely. That's what we want. We want to have the capacity to choose our own mind, choose our own life, rather than
choice.
not have the capacity to do it.
Or is it taken away from you?
As with anything in life, I've been told to hold back up. I'm just having a momentary technical. Okay, here we go. As with anything in life, as we change our perception of any part of our life, we change our experience of it. Just take a moment to what's one area of your life that you perceive in a way that's less than joyful? Could be the current situation. Could be a loss of money right now. Could be a great missing of being with your friends and close ones, family. How are you perceiving that right now? Are you perceiving that as being a victim? Can you entertain the possibility of perceiving it as a blessing somehow, as perceiving it as the reality of the situation, but not permanent? We're going to cover that in a moment too. Vocation means I call. Do you see your current work or the ways that you're involved with your life as a calling, as something that you have to do, as something that, for ministry, for me, I learned a long time ago, it was, people would ask, why did you become a minister? And a long time ago, it occurred to me that it was this subtle inevitability. It was something that had a hold of me. It wasn't something that I have a hold of. It got me. And certainly through the ebbs and flows of any career, our relationship with it shifts and changes. And I've gone through tremendous challenges with ministry. In fact, left it for a while because I couldn't find the joy there anymore. And that was the choice I made, to go find joy. But now I'm back in the ministry and I find a tremendous amount of joy. And again, it was a period of time where God remade me, remolded me from within. And it was difficult. It was a sort of hell. It was a tremendous challenge, but I've been repurposed, and I'm so grateful for that. But oftentimes we have to go through those times of metamorphosis and change in order so that we can be made new, in order so that we can feel joy again, feel that our work, our life, our contribution is actually a calling, something that has us, that sustains us and sets us free. When we are singing our song, our creative nature is being let out. When we are fully absorbed in creating, prosperity simply follows because we have entered into the divine flow of life. Flow, the current. So Butterworth challenges us in this way too. He says, sometimes our desire to display our success can actually put us in bondage to it. And again, it goes back to, is it a calling, or is it something you have, or is it something that has you? And sometimes we're so busy playing the game, or as it's been called, climbing the corporate ladder, or who has more toys, or, you know, look at my car compared to that car. And we do the comparison game and that whole thing, that we lose track of being in the flow. It's not that we could still be in the flow of making more money, of having more power, but are you in the flow of joy? Are you in the flow of contribution? Are you in the flow of generosity? Are you in the flow of fulfillment rather than just acquisition? So that can put us in bondage to it. We may have all the stuff, but put our head on the pillow at the end of the day and realize that we're lonely and spiritually bankrupt. And we don't want to be that. I call it the principle of having it all. We want to have it all. All the good stuff that makes life comfortable and enjoyable, and an inward experience of fulfillment, of peace, of harmony. Can I get an amen? Amen. Success can end up being a label we wear rather than a state of being. Could the person that's driving down the car in the Bentley Coupe, which I believe is a very sexy car, I'd love to have one day, by the way. Could the person that's driving the whatever, Honda Civic, the 1984, I don't mean to downplay anything, I apologize, but the 1984 Toyota Corolla that you have to change, that's got an oil leak and whatever, can the person driving either one of those cars experience fulfillment? Absolutely. So is it a game that you're playing where it's a label you're wearing rather than an expression? A game of maybe the game could be who can express more love than who can acquire more toys, or who can acquire more toys and express the most love. I hope you get what I'm saying. Success is not getting there. It is earning the right in consciousness to be there. Because what we see, that there's no place to get to in an infinite cosmology, in an infinite something, which is the thing in which we live. We haven't found the end of the universe. Inside of an infinite, where can getting there be? What is the end game rather than the being game? And a tremendous amount of the success syndrome has us caught up in the getting there game. And oftentimes what happens when you realize that you got there? There's a fleeting moment of joy, perhaps a fleeting moment of accomplishment, but always, I would say without exception, there's another urge to continue to express. There's another urge to continue to venture on, to voyage more, to go deeper. I love sharing this with couples when I do weddings, that no matter how long one has been married or in a relationship, doesn't have to be marriage, it could be a relationship of any kind, and you're together for a few years onto, my grandparents were married for 57 years before my grandfather passed. They'd still be married. You can still find something new about that person. You can still continue to inquire into them to discover another secret. We start to die in a relationship when we think we've got them all figured out, when we lose our curiosity, when we lose our our interest in finding out more, our interest in inquiring, our curiosity. And that's the same with life. If we're bored and everything's just so habitual, we're bankrupt somehow in a way that we've lost our curiosity. So it then becomes impossible to discover more, to discover a greater good. Again, in an infinite, there's a greater good for us. So we want to almost live in two worlds, which is the same world. But one world is, I am grateful for my life, how it is now. I'm grateful to see the good that I see in my life. And then another world, which again is part of the same world, is what good can I continue to attract? What's next? What good is there for me? I am God's living enterprise, and God cannot fail. Close your eyes just for a moment. Take a deep breath and consider right now. I am God's living enterprise, and God cannot fail. Amen. Okay, so here's some ideas if you want to jot these down real quick. I know that Jeff is also making them available so that you can take your time with these slides, but I'll just go through the activities here for you to participate with. List things you liked, loved to do as a child. List successes you had in your childhood or youth. List things you like to do now. And again, we're taking money out of this. Has nothing to do with money right now. It has to do with expression and what you love to do, hobbies, etc. What do you love to do? List successes you have had as an adult. And then create an affirmative, take all of that information and create an affirmative statement of being. Just a one line or two lines. This is what I love. This is what brings me joy. This is where I'm in heaven when I express myself. This is where I lose track of time. Just create a one sentence statement, an affirmative statement of being. Take a quick sip of water here before we move on to the next segment. All right, how to reverse financial adversity and security in a changing world. Don't those sound like hot topics right now? Hot topics. So economists, again, this was written back in 1983, but I think we can identify with this now, increasingly acknowledge that economics is basically a psychological phenomenon. Economics is how much are we seeing with it? If there's confidence in the market, if there's a lack of confidence in the market. What is confidence? It's invisible. It's an attitude. It's a relationship with life. It's a way of being. I'm frozen here again, Jeff. See how we get to the next. All right, there we go. So from the standpoint of a psychological phenomenon or an agreement in consciousness, wherever two or more are gathered together in an interaction of minds, a very real energy force is projected into the world. Wherever two or more are gathered, and that doesn't necessarily, it's not physical gathering, it's an agreement. Pick up the phone and say, I'm feeling prosperous today. Are you? Yeah, I'm feeling prosperous today. That's an agreement. It has an effect. There's an agreement that begins to happen. Wherever two or more are gathered together in an interaction of minds, a very real energy force is projected into the world. There is a tremendous amount of agreement about fear right now in our world. And what's happening? People are afraid. Everybody's walking around wearing masks. I get it. We want to do the prudent things. We want to do the things to help move through this, and we're trusting information from whatever source it comes from. And yet there's an agreement. There's an agreement about fear. There's an agreement right now about disease. Now, I'm not saying, again, it's not about denying what's happening, but it's coming into an agreement about its impermanence. What's permanent is health. God is health. That's all that's permanent. Within that, we can experience temporary challenge, and yet health remains a principle. Disease is not a principle. Let something good be said. Again, this is about agreement. In our household growing up, what was the statement? If you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. Truth side economics. Let something good be said. Be mindful. I'm going to go through this a little bit quickly, but here's a wonderful statement I learned in my early 20s that I remember and use often. Let something good be said. Watch your thoughts because thoughts make words. Watch your words because words make actions. Watch your actions because actions make habits. Watch your habits because habits make character. Watch your character because character makes your destiny. Watch your thoughts because thoughts make words. Let something good be said. Tend to the garden of your mind. Tend to the garden of your heart. So that what you're contributing is something good, even in the midst of challenge. You get to control your own damn mind. What will you put the attention on? What will you put your focus on? Admit to yourself, my present experience reflects my present level of consciousness. Once again, it just comes back to the law of consciousness, the law of mind, the law of thought. My present experience reflects my present level of consciousness. Look, truth principles take a tremendous amount of courage because they ask us to be fully responsible for our own lives. It takes away the possibility of being a victim. And for some of us, that's a challenge because being a victim allows us to replay a story that can create drama. And drama is something that feeds us sometimes. It makes us feel alive. It gives us a feeling of something. But do we really want that drama? Or do we want, again, peace and fulfillment? My present experience reflects my present level of consciousness. That's the experience. So we're having a collective experience, but each of us have an individual experience within the midst of that. We're having a collective experience called humanity, and with the challenges that are going on with this COVID situation, but each of us in the midst of that are having an individual experience, and it's based on your present level of consciousness. So I ask you, are you suffering or are you free? Right now, are you suffering or are you finding a blessing? Are you finding sources to blame or are you taking responsibility for your experience? Hey, in any given day, I ebb and flow. Sometimes I'm suffering. Sometimes I look for the conspiracy theory and the blame. But when I go down that path, when I go down that rabbit hole, I constrict, I get tighter, my breath is shorter, my heart beats faster. It's no good there. So then I have to catch myself, recalibrate, and instead choose to raise my consciousness into a place of heaven. Since cause is in me, a cure can be effected by altering the cause. Since cause is in me, a cure to anything can be effected by altering the cause. And so then what do I alter? My consciousness. In any endeavor, there must be a possibility of success and failure. Stability and perspective to deal with both in spiritual poise. This is what we're looking for, a stability and perspective to deal with either one of those. Not get too high and not get too low. With spiritual poise. What is spiritual poise? It goes back to the idea of saying centered. Centered simply means a stayed awareness on what and who you really are, an expression of life, an expression of the divine, that spiritual poise. So even when there's a challenge, we might react, or a quote unquote failure, we might react for a moment, but we want to discipline ourselves to come back to the truth that I am life's expression. Failure is always a possibility. Missing the mark is one of the ways we learn to hit the target. It's called practice. It's when my daughter's learning to ride her bike. She's going to fall many times, and then she's going to learn balance. And then what happens once we learn balance on riding a bike? You never forget it. It's always there. We can't be afraid of failure. What is failure anyway? It's generally based on some outside idea of what success is supposed to look like. But if we're playing the game, I mean, what is it in baseball? The Hall of Fame players fail 66, 70% of the time. They succeed 30% of the time, and they go on to the Hall of Fame. Unemployment, which I know a number of people are experiencing right now, and loss or hardship or challenge, and the self-pity and bitterness that can accompany them, can become an obsession that blocks the reinfusion of the substance of flow. Unemployment, hardship, or challenge, and the self-pity and bitterness that can accompany them can become an obsession that blocks the reinfusion of flow, the flow of substance. Challenge is going to happen in life. Loss is going to happen in life. But do we feel shame about it? Is there self-pity involved with it? Bitterness, blame, victimhood. We can see all of these words. None of those words we would call good. But when they happen, oftentimes we do feel victimized. We feel victimized. But again, it's back to your own consciousness and your own choice. Are you open to the reinfusion of divine substance? Or are you blocking that flow? Because the truth is, somewhere, always, there is a need for your unique contribution. There is a divine mind counterpart for every human need. I like to say, well, how many songs have ever been created in the world? I really have no idea. Let's just pick a number. 100 million songs have been created since the beginning of song. But people haven't stopped creating song. What if all of a sudden we looked and said, oh, there's already 100 million songs that have been created. I don't need to write a song. I don't need to sing my song. What would happen? It'd be the same old songs over and over and over again with no fresh sound, unique sound. So just because you look out and you think you have an idea and say, oh, so many people have already done that. I see it everywhere. It hasn't been brought with your unique contribution, with your unique sound, with your unique song, with your unique stank, with your unique power. And the world needs that in the same way the soul needs to hear fresh new music, new idea. Somewhere there is a need for your unique contribution. Are you blocking the flow? Are you in the flow? And what is it to be in the flow? It's like a bear in a river with the salmon swimming up. You catch a salmon, you catch an idea. Be a bear. How can we keep the vision that we live in an orderly universe when we are able to say, I accept the reality of the situation, but not its permanence? I accept the reality, the current reality of the situation, but not its permanence. Oftentimes in the Bible and in other sacred scripture, it says it came to pass. And more often than not, that's been interpreted as it came to be, rather than it came to pass. It came to move through. The only permanent thing in life, is God, is divine substance, is the isness that will just keep ising and ising and ising. That's the only thing that's permanent. Within that is change. It came to pass. Write that down. Say it aloud. It came to pass. To come for a moment and then move on. To come for a bit of time, for just this season, whatever the season is, a moment, a day, a week, it came to pass. I accept the reality of the moment, but I cannot accept the permanence other than the life of the Holy Spirit. I love this analogy of the pebble on the beach, that you could be walking. There are a million rocks on the beach if you're having a beautiful walk on the beach, if you have a beach near you. And you can pick up a pebble and you can look at it. And if you bring it too close to your eye, it completely blocks your view. So all you can see is that pebble. You can't see the beautiful mountains and the body of water and the trees and whatever else is around. All you can see is that pebble. All you can see is that issue that's right in front of your eye. But if you bring it back and you have the proper perspective that you're looking at it, the proper distance, if you can get away from it just a little bit, you can examine it from all sides. You can actually see it, its dimension, what it looks like. And then you can analyze property from there, but it doesn't become your entire world. It's not your entire world. It's something that's presented itself to you in the moment, and you can have proper perspective of it. And then what you can do is, once you've looked at it and analyzed it, you can drop it and it becomes part of your path moving forward. It's not even something you carry around and put in your pocket. It's something you drop and then you continue walking. So any challenge, we don't want to make it become our entire universe. We want to look at it with the proper distancing, proper perspective, do what we need to do about it, drop it back on our beach and continue walking so it's part of our path, part of our experience that we can learn from. Speaking of water and water scenes, the oyster. When sand gets into an oyster, it irritates it. And the oyster wants to get the sand out. So it tries to get the sand out of its shell, of its home. And when it realizes it can't, what does it do? It gets busy purling. The oyster takes the friction, the grit, the sand, and out of it creates a pearl. Can you do that? Can you get busy purling? Can you take the challenges, the current challenges in your life, the friction that you feel, and instead of trying to deny it or affirm it away or pretend it doesn't exist, use it to create something valuable. Use it to create something beautiful. Use it to create something that benefits your life. Get busy purling. Professor Bartocci said, it may be said that any view of life that puts security rather than creativity first has misread life at its best and thus misinterprets the cosmic process. It may be said that any view of life that puts security rather than creativity first has misread life at its best and thus misinterprets the cosmic process. Are you challenged by that statement? Who doesn't want security? Everybody wants to feel security. But what really is secure unless we're going forth with gusto, unless we're purling, unless we're singing our song? Can anything be secure if we're just holding on, if we're just trying to get by? Real security is expressing, growing, and expanding. Expressing, growing, and expanding. Human beings were no match physically for the beasts of the day. So this is in reference to the evolution of human beings. The beasts of the day are the big beast with the gnarly teeth and big paws and claws and animals that were 20 times the size of human beings. But how did human beings make it out? How did we continue to evolve? Creativity, the intuitive flow of ideas. That's how we continue to evolve, is we get creative. Okay, this beast has big gnarly teeth that are as long as my arms, and it's 20 times as big as I am, but I've got an idea of how I can trap it. We have the capacity to think. It always makes me think of the movie The Edge, old movie. I think it's from the 90s. Anthony Hopkins, Alec Baldwin, where a group of folks are up in I think it's the Alaska wilderness, and they're going to try and find a person up there to photograph. And their plane goes down, and they get lost in the middle of the Alaska wilderness, which is vast. And they're all freaking out, except Anthony Hopkins, who's remarkably calm. The other two that are lost with him are freaking out. What are we going to do? How are we going to get out of this mess? And Anthony Hopkins at one point says, very calmly, do you know why people die when they get lost? You know why people die when they get lost in the wilderness? And he says, shame. They die of shame because they forgot to do the one thing that could get them out of the situation. And what's that one thing? Thinking. To think. To use our creativity. To welcome our intuitive flow of ideas. To think your way out of a situation. Whether you feel like you thought your way into it, or if you're a victim of it, it doesn't matter. Our present level of life is our present level of consciousness. Can you think your way into a new reality? Get creative, the intuitive flow of ideas. So consider, what are your beasts? What are your challenges right now? Where do you feel lost in the wilderness? Consider that question. What are your beasts? The monsters, the dragons to slay? And are you up to the task of slaying them? Are you up to the task of being creative such that your creativity and your flow of ideas is triumphant? I know that you are. You're equal to it. I know it. And more, you will be triumphant. So Eric Butterworth talks about the millionaire consciousness glibly described. And what he means by that is, and we see these books out there, 1 Minute Millionaire, how to achieve millionaire consciousness overnight, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What's missing in those ideas is that the individual writing those books or the individual presenting that idea was bold enough and took enough risk to write that book in the first place, to come up with an idea in the first place. Well, let's do an experiment. In the next 60 seconds, if you're not a millionaire, I want you to become one. Go. We're not going to take the whole 60 seconds because it's precious time right now, but you get my point. It's a movement of consciousness, and it does take time. It does take risk. The best way to be safe is never to be secure. It means living on the edge of yourself. It means being willing to be laughed at. It means being willing to take that risk. It means being willing to go for it. It means being willing to just do it. One of the most brilliant in marketing slogans that's ever been created. Just do it. Get out of your own way. Take the risk. And those moments of victory over time build up a millionaire consciousness, a billionaire consciousness. But we must risk. So here's a few quotes to help sustain us. There is a difference between wanting to believe and believing. Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. Render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, and unto God that which is God's. Whatever's of the earthly plane, let it be of the earthly plane. Worship the Spirit, God. Take the spare tire to relax and enjoy the journey, but insurance is just insurance. Let not fear be your guide. So that might seem like a non sequitur out of nowhere, but in the book, Eric Butterworth talks about the need, within the context of security, sometimes people can insurance themselves into the poorhouse. You've got plenty of insurance, but you're paying so much in monthly or yearly insurance premiums that you've got insurance, but you're bankrupt other than that. Of course, we want to be mindful and we want to protect ourselves and our families. But are we doing it from a standpoint of lack of fear rather than going for it, rather than taking the risks? Maybe it's better if the insurance was for all the risks you're taking rather than for if something just happens to go to hell. He also talks about, so there's this idea of not trusting our own guidance and our own intuition. So I have up here, shall I have the surgery or trust God to heal me? It's about the person that has a physical ailment, and they're wondering, well, should I do what's necessary in order to help heal, or should I just, let God heal me? And the thing is that God doesn't heal. God is life. But if there's a way that we need to manage our lives such that there's an assist to get healthier, like this class, for example, or working with a practitioner of truth or having, empowered conversations to get to a place where you can accept your own health, where you can see that if it's there to help you, that you can accept it, that God is in the surgeon's hands as well, that God is in the minister's hands as well, that God is in your friend's voice as well, that God is in the medication as well, that the answer is perhaps in the science. Listen to your consciousness honestly, follow its lead courageously. Listen to your consciousness honestly and follow its lead courageously. Your inspiration, how many ideas do we capture every day? How many ideas do you capture every day that we just dismiss and push to the wayside rather than following its lead courageously? Sometimes it does take a tremendous amount of courage to to live your life out loud, to live your boldest life, to live a life that's where you're steeped in your spiritual magnificence and you're not afraid to show it. In a world where it seems like plenty of folks would want to rip you down, but you're so committed to building yourself up. And those are the people you want to surround yourself with. Are you saving for a rainy day? If so, it will surely rain buckets. I love that. I'm saving for a rainy day. Well, there'll be an opportunity when the rain's coming. Trust that. Or are you saving for an opportunity, not an emergency? Are you saving for a sunny day? Will be the opportunity to go. You have this savings account filled with money, not just in case the roof collapses or in case I need a new roof or in case the water heater goes out, but for the wonderful opportunity to go on vacation so that I have a nest egg. When I do capture that idea, I have some startup money. What are you saving for? An opportunity or an emergency? Are you saving for some way that you can bless your family and your life in the world? Or are you holding your breath for the shoe to drop, for the whatever the emergency is? Save for opportunities, not emergencies. Again, security in a changing world. He talks a little bit about retirement. People have various ideas about retirement. The idea about we don't ever want to stop expressing is the crux of the issue here. We don't ever stop giving ourselves to life. So if we're saving even for retirement, then what are you going to do when you retire? If you're saving for the end of your working career, then what are you going to do? Just laze around all day? That gets old too. Always we want to be expressing ourselves. We want to get into a relationship with life where we're constantly having opportunities to use our gifts and talents and our inspiration as a presence of benefit. Whether we're working, whether you're quote unquote retired, how can you utilize your vitality and life energy to express more? We do not grow old when we stop growing. We are old. Growing means curiosity. Growing means challenge. Growing means opportunity. Butterworth tells the story of a man who was fired from his job and was distraught, in tremendous grief, victim, bitterness, the whole nine. He was sitting at his desk at home, completely broken down. And in a moment, he saw a spider that was on his desk. And the spider, out of itself, which is what it does, obviously, began to weave a web to get down from the top of the desk down to the next level of the desk. And then he continued to watch this spider weave a full web on his desk, and he just let it do its thing. And he had the insight in that moment that if this spider out of itself can pull itself up and weave its web, then there must be something within me from which I can pull myself up and weave a new web. One moment of insight from a spider doing its thing changed this guy's life forever. What did he do? He began to embrace the idea of quote unquote early retirement. He began to embrace the idea and wake up to the idea that he didn't really like that job anyway. He was doing it just for a paycheck. See, what he did is began to shift his awareness, shift his relationship to the problem, to see it not as a hardship and something to be victimized by, but as an opportunity for him to express more, to express greater. So what did he do? He took the time, got intentional, and he started writing. And he remembered as he started writing that it's what he wanted to do a long, long, long time ago anyway, before he got into his career. And out of his authentic writing became a successful writer. Now that's a serious transition from I'm fired out of nowhere. What the hell am I going to do? To, oh, look to nature. If out of itself a spider can weave a web and lift itself up, I can too. And that is always an insight, gang. Look to nature for the gifts. Look to nature for truth. Look to nature for principle. Nature doesn't have the capacity to outthink itself. A tree just trees. It's what it does. A tree is just treeing. A bush is bushing. The mountains are mountaining. They don't have an inner conflict about whether they should display their glorious splendor today. They're just mountaining, displaying their glorious splendor. You too. The word for secure in Latin, without care. 2 words, without care. Freedom from anxiety. Not carelessness, but freedom from anxiety. Not carelessness, but without care, without concern, without the seeing it all the way through to the end and how screwed up it could possibly be. But just today, my daily bread today, what's in front of me today? Freedom from anxiety. Do you feel like you're in over your head right now? If you can swim and you aren't afraid of the water, swimming can be fun. If you can swim and you aren't afraid of the water, swimming can be fun. You don't need to get in over your head. You can realize that the water is exactly where it needs to be for me to thrive, for me to exercise, for me to play, for me to enjoy. Again, it's what relationship do we have with it? And if you don't know how to swim, I pray that this class is helping to teach you to swim, or that you surround yourselves with individuals that aren't engaged with the drama, but are engaged with truth, that are engaged with powerful principle, so that we can learn to swim in these times and then see the blessing that can be in it. So I've got a Sermon on the Mount note here. I want to read an excerpt from it. This is from Jesus. Eric Butterworth calls it a timeless formula for security. An excerpt from the Sermon on the Mount. Do not be anxious about your life, what you shall eat or what you shall drink, nor about your body, what you shall put on. Is not life more than food and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? And which of you, by being anxious, can add 1 cubit to his lifespan? And why are you anxious about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grasses of the field, which today is alive and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O people of little faith? Therefore, do not be anxious, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the Gentiles seek all these things, and your heavenly Father knows what you need, that you need them all. But seek first God's kingdom and its righteousness, and all of these things shall be yours as well. Therefore, do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Let the day's own trouble be sufficient for the day. Today. Now. Today. It's enough to deal with today. Tomorrow's tomorrow. Ideas are the gold coin of the kingdom. Literally little chunks of divine substance out of which we mold and fashion our good. Ideas. Spend time every day welcoming ideas, getting quiet, turning off the noise, whatever the noise is. And just take a deep breath. And it's even in a deep breath and a few seconds after that an idea can hit. And just write them down. You don't have to commit to every idea, but just harvest. Be a harvester of your good. Don't look to your net worth. Look to your net worthiness. What are you worthy of? What good are you worthy of? Your net worth tells no story about your magnificence. 0. Yet your worthiness tells the story about what you expect to receive in life. Don't be concerned for your net worth. Be concerned with being worthy of the good life, and the good life will find you. So here's some discussions here. Things to consider. What failures have you endured that have empowered your greater success? Make an exhaustive list of your skills and talents. And what risks could you take to chase down one of your dreams or a greater fulfillment in your life? Okay, one more unit for this morning. So a long time ago, a study was done through the University of Michigan. What do people worry most about? Money. What makes people happiest? Money. What makes people unhappiest? Money. The money enigma. What is an enigma? It's a puzzle. The money puzzle. The love. So now we're getting into this discussion about money and kind of unpacking this a little bit to see what is money really? What is this puzzle of money? It's a funny word, money. When I was preparing these lessons a while back, I kept saying the word over and over again to myself, money, money, money. You ever had the experience when you say a word so much it loses all meaning and context, and then it's just 5 letters put together, money, money, money. It takes the attachment out of it. It takes the value out of it. It just becomes a word, money. The love of money is the root of all evils, not money. Oftentimes that scripture is misinterpreted or misread, that money is the root of all evil. It's worshiping money and only money that is the root of evils. The right attitude toward money is the root of all kinds of prosperity. Let's see if we can unpack this a little bit here. From the book, The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. Money, the symbol of God's substance, the idea of spiritual supply objectified. As God is spirit and man is God's creation, spirit is man's substance. You get the equation there? But spirit is all, so money is an expression of substance. One more time. Money is the symbol of God's substance. We talked about substance on money, divine substance that is everywhere. It's a symbol. The idea of spiritual supply objectified. As God is spirit and man is God's creation, spirit is man's substance. Spirit is all. So money is an expression of substance, substance with a capital S, divine currency. Just mention this. Webster's defined enigma as a puzzling or inexplicable situation. For a lot of people, that's money. What do people love? What brings people the most joy? Money. Brings people the most unhappiness? Money. People worry about most? Money. Sounds like a puzzle to me. What does money represent in your life? Security? Challenge? Love it when it's there, hate it when it's not? What is money? Money, money. Money's really, it's a bunch of numbers nowadays, right? I mean, how often do we exchange actual paper money these days? Not too often. There's bill pay and online banking and Venmo and all these other kind of things. It's just a numbers. So if it's just a bunch of numbers nowadays, what does that tell us about the root of it? That it has to be an idea. And our idea about money, about substance. Money is not real wealth at all. Rather, it is a device for measuring wealth. A device for measuring wealth. What's that say? Again, it comes back to, what's that C word? Consciousness. And that money is a measure of it. It's not good or bad. It's simply a representation of our ideas, our closely held ideas and beliefs about currency, about money. Money is an enabling symbol. It enables us to provide for ourselves. An enabling symbol enables us to provide for ourselves. Food, clothing, shelter, etc., etc. Powerful affirmation. Money is good. Money is God in action. It is not evil. It's the most interesting thing to me that one of the paradox, if you will, about our relationship with money, that priests are encouraged to take a vow of poverty, and other clergy members, and yet the Catholic Church is one of the wealthiest organizations on the planet. That's an enigma. Take a vow of prosperity today, not a vow of poverty, a vow of prosperity. Money's a good thing. It allows us to move about freely and take care of our body and take care of our families and take care of our minds through vacations and outings and wonderful meals and things like that. Money is good. Money is God in action. This means I am clear in my understanding that God is my source, and so I am free in allowing money to flow to me, through me, and out into the world. Don't feel guilty about money. You don't have to feel guilty about money. Welcome money. It's a beautiful instrument for contribution and expression. If you think positively and creatively about money, you multiply its effectiveness. If you criticize and depreciate it, you actually tend to dissipate it and repel it from you. It's with anything else. Relationships, money, self-expression, the health of our body. If we're welcoming it into positive and creative thoughts, multiply its effectiveness. If you criticize and depreciate it, you actually tend to dissipate it and repel it from you. We want to welcome it. In God we trust. Turn the money to the green side. If you have a bill nearby, I invite you to pull it out. So this is what the money's changed in the last 40 years, but there's a $1 bill right here. Eric Butterworth says, what if you turn it to the green side that's predominantly green, the back? In God we trust is what it says right there along the top of the one. In God we trust. How do you treat your money? Are you mindful of it and conscious with it? Can you turn it to the green side and see, in God we trust? So whenever I go buy that gallon of milk or make that car payment, whether it's bill pay or not, can I metaphorically think, or can I just engage with the symbol as I make this car payment, as I make this insurance payment, as I make this tuition payment, whatever it might be? Turn this to the green side. In God I trust. Click. In God I trust. Thank you, cashier. Just a silent blessing whenever we circulate. And when we receive, in God I trust. Okay, keep your identity with money as a symbol of limitless God substance. What do you do when you're out of money? Pray for faith. Someone was so funny in a class I taught this. I pray for money. No. Money's an enabling symbol. Pray for faith. Pray for the creative flow of ideas. You are never further than one idea away from all the wealth in the universe. The rich and wealthy didn't set out to make money. They captured an idea. Bill Gates, what was it? A computer on every desk in every household, and then turns into the richest man in the world, but wanted to share technology. Ideas are flowing forth into the mind. Ideas are the flowing forth into mind of the wealth of the universe. Ideas, spend time capturing your ideas. Again, what are you worthy of instead of what are you worth? Worthiness rather than net worth. Character before collateral. Your character before collateral. I am an individualized expression of the infinite flow of substance. Wonderful affirmation for you to use there. Currency. Currency, what we call currency. We see now, because this is certainly good to have in your hand, but a lot of us circulate in different ways than this now. It's a current, a movement of the divine flow. It's energy. Ride the current. Money is good. Money is God in action. And here's some discussion points for you as we wind up our lesson for today. Take an inventory of all your references to money. Do you curse it? Do you bless it? Are you mindless? Or are you mindful? What are all the ways you are blessed by money? The chair you're sitting in, the house, the roof that's over your head, the breakfast you had this morning, et cetera, et cetera. Write a paragraph or two describing your ideal relationship with money. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of our lesson for this morning. I'm so grateful to have spent another hour with you. We are indeed blessed. The next installment of this will be Friday morning in 47 hours at 10 a.m. Same bat time, same bat channel. We've got, I just want to give you a couple of announcements briefly. The next offering tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., Reverend Rebecca is going to be offering a meditation through our website as well. If you're experiencing some anxiety, we have a meditation tomorrow morning at 10, on Friday at 10. And then Dr. Laura's got a class tomorrow at 2. You can find all this information, cslpalmdesert.org. You can get all the information there. Again, this class Friday at 10. And then we have a special offering for you as well on Saturday at 11 a.m. We're breaking with our 10 just for one day here due to a scheduling conflict. But my good friend back from Seattle, who was one of my teachers through seminary, Michael Bogar, is going to presenting for about an hour or so on Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, the metaphysical meaning of Holy Week. And he is a Bible master. He's such a master at the metaphysical analysis of the Bible. And so particularly now, since it is Holy Week, I thought it'd be a great idea to bring him in and present to us. It's going to be a powerful time. So again, that's 11 a.m. on Saturday. We'll get the information out to you as well. And make a note that you can contribute to the center through the donate button. That should be on your screen. It's someplace where you can find it, right? Link in the chat that you can donate to our center to continue to support our ministry as we continue to make these offerings to you. Have a magnificent day. My heart is with you. God bless. Make it a good one. And we're out of here. Peace. Good job. Great message today. Thank you. Even with that pad, it's interesting standing up without movement for that bit of time.
Yeah.
Are we?
We're gonna zero off.
Because it's still on there. Does it matter? Over here. Oh, man.
Oh, wait a second.